Well, it's the end of yet another week, and here on this channel that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions to discuss them in a video. This week was yet another exciting week in the NBA world where a lot went down, so of course there's plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that so you can leave your comment. Before we start though, it turns out about 64% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first take we'll be discussing comes to us from Praneel, and he says that the Pacers should just blow it up at this point because it's clear that their current roster isn't going anywhere. Okay, so this one is definitely a bit of an overreaction, and while I don't fully back this claim, there is a shred of truth in there regarding certain parts of the roster that need a change, and it's something that won't be easy to swallow. The Pacers currently have two good big men in Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis that play very differently, but they're both ideally suited to play the center position. They've tried playing them together most of this year, but everything points to the team just being better when one of them is on the bench, and the team's performance is clearly held back when they're forced to share the court. The numbers back this up, and it's clear from watching as well. When Turner and Sabonis share the court, they get outscored by opponents by 1.1 points per 100 possessions. When Turner is playing center without Sabonis on the court, the Pacers actually outscore opponents by a pretty impressive 9.6 points per 100 possessions. Then alternatively, when Sabonis gets to play center without Turner on the court, the team actually becomes even worse, getting outscored by 3.1 points per 100 possessions. The reason I said it would be tough to swallow is because Sabonis is the team's lone all-star and is supposed to be their best player, but the team plays better without him on the court. They should probably look to trade him this offseason while his value is still pretty high, because he could be used to bring in a trade package that can fill other areas of weakness on the roster, because both Turner and Sabonis are too good to be bench players, and the team doesn't function properly with both of them on the court together. The next take we'll be discussing comes to us from Samuel, and he says that the Raptors won the Norman Powell trade by a lot. So this trade at the trade deadline saw the Raptors send Norman Powell to the Trailblazers in exchange for Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood, a 2-for-1 trade deal that was meant to give the Blazers the better player right now as they buckle up for a playoff run, while the Raptors take on the younger, promising scoring guard along with an expiring contract. The problem with that, however, is that the fact that it really wasn't blatantly obvious that Powell was the better player than Trent, and since the trade has gone down, even more doubts can be passed on that belief. Since the trade has happened, Gary Trent Jr. has been averaging 18 points per game with the Raptors while shooting the ball about 44% from the field and 38% from three. Norman Powell, on the other hand, has been averaging about 17 points per game in Portland, shooting 45% from the field and 39% from three. The production is nearly identical, but as I said before, Trent is 5 years younger than Powell, so the Raptors did very well acquiring a player with potential for the future, while the Blazers got a player in his prime. Trent started to get a lot of attention recently when he scored 44 points last week against the Cavaliers in a game, but even besides that, he fits the Raptors' timeline much better than Powell. Powell is certainly a very good scorer on the wing, and his playoff experience should be more helpful for the Blazers right now, but there is definitely a chance that they look back on this trade and regret it if Trent continues to develop and become a hell of a good talent like it looks like right now. The next take we'll be discussing comes to us from MHJR, and they say that LaMelo Ball will be better than both Trae Young and Ja Morant over the course of their careers. First off, allow me to just say that the future of the league is in very good hands, because there is so much promising young talent developing at such a fast rate, and these three guards are a prime example of that. Each of these three guards have come from each of the last three draft classes, representing how talent is constantly getting added to the league year after year at a top level. But the question at hand is, which one of these three is better for the long run? It's really tough because they're all really good at different things. Like, Trae's the best and most confident shooter of the three, LaMelo has the most playmaking potential, and Morant's definitely the best defensive prospect of the three, clearly. Trae is already one of the most productive players, not amongst just this group of players, but in the whole league right now, which is pretty hard to ignore, and the Hawks have also been playing really well lately, with him leading the way, showing that he can lead a playoff team with the right pieces. I think LaMelo has so much untapped potential, and already in year one, he looked much more comfortable making plays than anyone thought he would right away, so by no means would I count him out of potentially being the best of these three down the line. It's just way too early to declare that, and we haven't seen nearly enough from him yet. I've always been very high on him since before he was even drafted. It's just too early to say things like that right now. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Adarsh, and he says that Onyeka Okongwu from the Hawks will turn out to be the best center from this year's draft class over James Wiseman. Now, this definitely does seem like a pretty hot take on the surface, but it's actually something that I've been backing fully ever since the draft. I've definitely discussed my thoughts in previous videos back around the time of the draft, but Okongwu has always been the more versatile two-way prospect, and his defense alone has been incredibly intriguing because he's not only a terrific rim protector, but his agility and versatility allows him to comfortably switch out onto the perimeter and hold his own on the defense outside as well, which is quite rare for a big man. Okongwu's first season began with an injury holding him out of game action for a while, and when he came back, he came into a situation where the Hawks had scarce playing time available because they have a pretty crowded front court with players like Clint Capella, John Collins, Danilo Gallinari, and others. Because of that, obviously James Wiseman, who stepped into a situation with a big role immediately, looks much better as a rookie, but Wiseman has a long way to go defensively, and overall, his rookie season has had a ton of highs and lows. I still do like Okongwu a ton as a long-term prospect, and once he's given the chance to show what he can do on a consistent basis, I fully back the original take here because he was compared to Bam Adebayo on draft night for a reason, and could definitely bring that level of impact. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.